Okay, so I just want to say this right up front. I could tell during worship, the first gathering, it seemed like people were good. There's a bunch of great people, but they were lame. Like they were, but you guys seem way more awesome. I could tell during worship. Is that right? All right, so let's sustain that high level, all right? All right, that's good. Hey, so as we jump in this morning, let's think about the church. Can we do that? Okay, we just had a precipitous decline right there. I just asked a question and only Mark answered. And really, this applies beyond the church, right? This thinking, it applies really to any organization, to every organization. So what we're going to talk about, you can actually apply and utilize it broadly in your lives. But since we came to church today, since we are in a church, and most importantly, since you and I are the church, this seemed like the most significant place to start, all right? So it made sense. So as we think about the church, we're going to consider 4 different types of people, right? So each of the quadrants of this graph is a different kind of person. And we're going to approach this using the ideas of buy-in and involvement. So the 4 kinds are people who buy in and are involved, people who maybe buy in but aren't involved, people who don't buy in and aren't involved, and people who buy in or don't buy in but are involved. So 4 different types or kinds of people. And we're going to talk about this. We're going to do this using nautical terms, right? So think about like what we would call these kinds of people if we were all on a beautiful boat at sea. Come on, anyone get up this morning and you're outside with gloves on, scraping ice off your windshield, and you're thinking to yourself, I would like to be on a boat in a warm locale at sea. Anyone else? Come on, right? And I mean, something like that might be just, a smidge nicer than Pleasant Hill, right? I mean, not a little bit. Sorry, Roy. Sorry, Tony and Mary. That was where you guys were forever, right? That might be a little bit better. A little bit, yeah, okay. We're not going to spend a ton of time on this. We're going to kind of go through it quickly, but it's just one more way for us to think about people, for us to think about others, for us to evaluate ourselves, and most significantly, for us to take a step to become a little bit more the people that God has made us to be. Do you guys like that idea? That we could take a step. We could become a little more the people God has made us to be. Here's the thing. I don't think we really ever should or do come to church and feel horrible about our lives and go from being messed up, that probably has taken us years or sometimes decades to get there, and we leave church and we're perfect. Right? Sometimes we think that's how it's supposed to work, right? Like I went to church, I prayed a prayer, I rubbed the lamp, where's the genie? Right? That's not how it works. But here's the good news. This is such good news. If we take a little step, and we take another little step, and we take a little step, guess what? It doesn't take too long to notice we're actually becoming different people, right? More the people that God has made us to be. And as we get to the last one, especially in sort of those 4 boxes, I think you're going to see, and you're going to, like, this is perfect for the final week of our Unity series before we jump into our Christmas series next week. So here's the first one. What do you call someone who buys in to things going on in an organization and is also highly involved? So someone who buys in and is involved. If you're on a boat, you call these people the crew, right? If you're on a boat, these are the crew. They are bought in, they're involved, they're truly a part of the organization at a high level. Without people like this, organizations, including the church, would just not exist in the same way and at the same level. Makes sense, doesn't it? Organizations would kind of limp along and never even approach maximum impact without a good crew. This is really important. These people are the foundation that organizations are built on. They are solid. They are dependable. They show up, and their lives help and bless others. This is really key, and I want to say this. If you are here at New Hope and you are part of the crew, you show up, you serve, you help lead maybe in some areas. I want you to hear this today. People's lives are better and different because of you. It's true. It's not about me. It's not about Jeremy. People's lives are better and different because of you. There are people who are headed toward heaven because of you. Because of how you love others and care for others and pray for others and invite others and whatever. This is because of you. And I just want you to hear those words, and I want to say thank you. New Hope would not be anything if it wasn't for the incredible crew of people who love Jesus and serve others here. So thanks for those of you who are a part of that. Now, here's the next one. What do we call someone who buys in, right? Oh, we just love this place. We love what it does, whatever, but isn't really involved. What do we call a person like that? Well, if you're on a boat, you call these people passengers, right? I love this. This is great, but I'm not really involved. I'm not really part of the crew, right? You call these people passengers. They love the organization they're a part of. They believe in it. They have drank the Kool-Aid, right? They've bought in. They show up, but they're not really overly involved beyond that, right? That might be like at church, someone who comes on Sunday, and that's really the extent, like that's what I'm supposed to do, right? I show up on Sunday most of the time, and that's kind of what I do, right? And it's for various reasons. Sometimes it's because of busyness. Right? So I'd really love to do more. I'd love to be more involved. But man, my life, and I have all these things and responsibilities and this, that, and the next thing. I'm just so busy. Anybody else really busy? Come on, right? This is true for all of us. But sometimes we allow that to kind of take us to that next stage. Sometimes it's stage of life, right? Have you ever found yourself in a specific stage of life where you're like, you know what? It's really hard for me to be anything other than a passenger right now. Sometimes, maybe a good example of that, I think of that, Laura, with you sitting on the front row with one of your million children, right? But sometimes when you have like a whole pack of young kids, right, you're like, for me to sort of get bathed, dressed, and leave the house is a miracle of God. Right? So it's hard to be involved more than I am because I'm in a specific stage of life. And I'm not going to be in this stage forever, but I'm in this stage right now. And so my life looks a little different. Although Laura's a great example of having a million kids and still being crazy involved. So that's cool too. Thank you, Laura. A lot of times, sometimes we're passengers because of proximity. It doesn't matter what the organization is, but if you're 20 miles or 40 miles or 60 miles away, it's harder sometimes to be involved at a high level than if you live next door. Makes sense, right? Sometimes proximity determines that. And then for a lot of people, it's just a priorities thing. Good, bad, right, wrong, doesn't matter. It's just other things in my life have been and are more important right now, and that's maybe just the way it is. And there's a lot of reasons. But as much as organizations want everyone to be the foundational crew, right? If Shelly and Jeremy and I are in conversation, we a lot of times we're like, oh man, wouldn't it be great if everybody was part of the crew, right? As much as organizations want this, passengers are really the lifeblood of organizations. And actually, since I said lifeblood, I want to just mention and remind you guys for the maybe second last time, we have one of our every other month blood drives this week. This week. It's on Thanksgiving Eve. Wednesday, we have a blood drive here. And you know what? If you've kind of ever thought to yourself, I kind of like the idea of saving people's lives. I would really love an option or an opportunity to do that in a way that didn't require getting poked with a needle. So maybe if there was just a little extra motivation, I would. Listen to me. We're actually doing a full Thanksgiving dinner at the blood drive. So you could literally show up and save lives, which is enough all by itself. Amen? That's good, right? And eat turkey. And I don't know what all the things are, but like mashed potatoes and stuffing and lather gravy on top, and listen to angels sing as you allow those things to replenish your body from what you just gave to save other people's lives. Like come on, who doesn't want to give blood right now, right? So I just think, maybe we should just stop the message and all go out and fill the remaining spots. If all those spots don't get filled up, I'm going to wonder, if you guys love Jesus and are American, right? Because you have an opportunity to literally pregame. It's a Thanksgiving meal before your Thanksgiving meal. It's like tailgating. It's awesome, right? So you should do that. So again, as much as organizations really want everyone to be that foundational crew, passengers are the lifeblood. Because here's the thing. We could have the best crew on the planet. But if we have no passengers show up to take the cruise, does it even matter? Right? If we're all here, we're a really awesome crew, right? If there's no passengers, it really doesn't matter. So passengers are important and awesome and really the lifeblood. So next, what do we call someone who isn't involved and doesn't buy in? This is an interesting one, right? Isn't involved and doesn't buy in. If you're on a boat, we call those people stowaways, right? Stowaways. You're not bought in. You're not involved. You kind of snuck on board and you're hanging out hoping to be indiscreet that nobody really notices you, right? This is what stowaways do. Most churches, stowaways get a bad rap, right? They're just a waste of time and resources, and they don't really buy in. They're not doing anything, right? Like you hear that kind of language. Can I tell you this? At New Hope, we love stowaways. If you're here today and you are a stowaway, right? You just kind of snuck in and you're hoping not to be noticed. We love you. You are welcome here. Because someone has got to sneak in and fill space, right? Kind of like passengers. That's got to happen. How we say that here at New Hope is this way. This is a place where you can come just as you are. So some people, they come to, or they say, I can't even come to church. But if they ever do come to church, maybe at Christmas time or Easter, right? Here's what God can't really use me. He won't forgive me. I can't even tell you all the things I've done, all the things I've been through, right? It's just not possible for me. Listen, I don't care what you've done. You are welcome here. I don't care how bad you think your life has been or how many mistakes you've made. We love you. And this place is here for you. We love stowaways here at New Hope. So you are welcome. We're glad you're here. And you are a gift. You're a gift. We think about you and we see you that way, not as they shouldn't be here. That's what church people do, right? Oh, they shouldn't be here and they have no respect and drain on resources, right? We love you and we're glad you're here. Now, some of you are like, wait, Rob, I'm kind of like a stowaway and I don't believe you really meant what you said. I don't believe your words. Because I've been here for a while. I've been here for years. And you're constantly pushing me and challenging me to be involved more, to serve more, to give more. And so you tell me you love me, but you keep your words sort of betray you a little bit. And to that, I just want to address that because I think that's an important question. If you have been here for years, you're not really a stowaway anymore. Right? We know you. We know you. Like you're not like hiding out anymore if you've been here for years. So if you've been here for years and you're still living like a stowaway, change categories, right? Become at least a passenger, if not part of the crew. It's time to do that. If you've been here for weeks or months, you can still be a stowaway. If you've been here for years, it's time to switch categories. Amen? Amen. Yeah. Amen. All right. So finally, here's the last one. We usually think that like other box, right? People who aren't involved and don't buy in is the worst, but we ended with this one this time. What do you call someone who does not buy in, but is involved, right? They're involved and even highly involved. These are the dangerous ones that organizations need to watch out for. If you're on a boat, you call these people pirates, right? These are people who are involved, highly involved a lot of times. So because of their involvement, they have influence, but they do not agree. They don't like how things are going. They don't like how things are being done. They disagree with leadership. So they use their influence that comes from that high-level involvement to share their opinions and beliefs with others, right? People who are susceptible and can be influenced by those things. And sometimes that type of pirate behavior can come from a place of hurt. You've heard this before, right? Hurt people hurt people. And so someone who's experienced deep woundings or pains or hurts from other people or organizations or even churches in the past, can sort of bring that and they can respond in this kind of way because of hurt. Sometimes it comes from a place of protection, right? Because people legitimately think, okay, they want to do this, but I honestly believe what I think my way is better, and if I can get my way or force my way, then it will be like the church will be protected, the organization will be protected, and things will be better. And I want to speak about that just for a second, because here's the problem there. Thinking that there's like a better way. Do you notice this? How like it doesn't matter what area of life, there's always these, hey, like this is the best way. And then over time as we learn more, they're like, well, we used to think that, but now we've learned this is the best way. Have you noticed that? In every area of life? And sometimes, like more time, it's like a new, different sort of best way. Sometimes we even go back, right? We're like, well, this was the best way. Now this is the best way. Actually, the way we used to do it, we're learning is it's sort of like, does anyone remember, you old enough now, where you remember when like we were kids and they're like, eggs are bad. And now they're like, hey, we were wrong about that eggs thing. Like you should eat eggs, right? Like it's funny how that works. Eat eggs, don't eat eggs again. Like, so I say all that to say just this. For me or for you to ever think that our way is the only way or even the best way is just silly. It really is. You know what the best way is? It's any way at all that we pick that we all get on board and do together. That's the best way. Because it doesn't even matter if it's not even close to the best way if we're all doing it together. It's what unity's all about. But if we're like, hey, some of us do this and some of us do that and some of us do the next thing, it doesn't ever work. And so sometimes, this idea of kind of this pirate behavior can come from all kinds of sources, but it really doesn't matter. Why? Because no matter where it begins, it always damages and destroys unity. When we're like heavily involved and so we have influence, but we're not at all bought in and we disagree, it always damages and destroys unity. So some of you might be thinking kind of culturally, right? Well, yeah, I get it, but being a pirate isn't all bad, right? Like, I don't know, but here's the thing. I'm not talking about a fun-loving, good-looking pirate like this, right? I'm talking about one who brings death and destruction like this. And here's the thing. Nobody wants to be a pirate. I mean, maybe for Halloween, but in general, in life, right? Nobody wants to be a pirate. No, at least in the beginning, nobody wakes up in the morning and says, I'm going to live my life this way today. But in some way, and maybe it's a very small way, we have all done this, right? We have all thought, well, what I think or what is in my mind, because it wasn't done like this before. It hasn't always been done this way, so that's how it should be done. And here's what, in some small way, we've all done this, right? We've all acted like pirates, where we use our thoughts and our influence to kind of try to persuade people or get our way. We've all believed we've known better. We've all used our words in this direction. And I want you to look at our series graphic. We've all fed the gap, right? We've all created a bigger chasm instead of obeying the call and command of God for unity. So one final time, I just want to speak these words over you as a healing balm, calling us back to what God has called and made us for. Listen to what the Apostle Paul gave to the church at Ephesus. There is one body and one Spirit. Just as you were called to one hope when you were called, one Lord, one faith, one baptism, one God and Father of all, who is over all and through all and in all. And so God, today, may the fruit of this series, this month that we're spending on this, God, may the fruit of this message today, may the fruit of this not be ever just new information, things that tickle our minds and cause us to consider. But God, in and through this, I pray that you would make us one. Increase our unity, increase our love for one another. And so Jesus, today, may we not just walk out these doors in a number of minutes, but strengthen our unity. God, give us and fill us with your love for each other. And God, for those who are nowhere near this place or any other church, God, fill us with your love for them. Those who are far from you and simply need a way back home. Jesus, may that be the fruit of today. We ask in Jesus' name. Amen. So a question. Why? Right? Why would I ever pick unity? After all, being a pirate is fun, sexy, adventurous, and exciting, right? Like, think of we could have patches and weapons and I don't know, like a peg, whatever, right? That would be cool, right? Let's be pirates. And then if we think about the unity part, being part of the crew, that's challenging. It's difficult. It's hard. Even like we said last week, sometimes we even look at this unity thing and we're like, without God, this is not even possible. So why do I want to spend my life doing that? So even if I know that unity and oneness and God's love, that is the right answer, that is the right path to choose, why in the world would you and I ever pick that over the other option, right? Why would anyone live that way? And today, I want to give you my best answer to that why question, okay? And it's just 2 verses. It's not even going to take very long, but it's going to help us to see why we should do this. So the first verse is Ephesians chapter 1, verse 10. And this is beautiful. It says this, that all these things will happen to be put into effect when the times reach their fulfillment. Keywords, right? When the times reach their fulfillment. And then what happens? Why is all this going to be done? To bring unity to all things. Isn't this crazy? Have you noticed that it seems like everywhere we've been throughout the scriptures, God's saying the exact same thing? Right? Like there's this call to unity over and over and over and over again. So to bring unity to all things, what kind of unity to all things? Things in heaven and on earth were brought under Christ. So when the times reach their fulfillment, simply means this is the direction that God is moving, right? And when we get there, ultimately, this is where we will arrive in the end, right? Like when the times it might not be where we are right now, but this is the direction that at least God is moving and would like us to move with Him. And this is where we're going to get to in the end. And then where exactly is that? It's unity to all things in heaven and on earth under Christ. Wow. Doesn't this kind of sound like there is one body and one Spirit? Just as you were called to one hope when you were called, one Lord, one faith, one baptism, one God and Father of all, who is over all and through all and in all. Again, it seems like God is saying the same thing to us over and over and over. And my only point here really is this, that this is the ultimate goal. And because this is God's ultimate goal, it should actually be our ultimate goal as well, right? That at the end, everything we want to be in unity under King Jesus. All things, everywhere, being one under Jesus. This is our work. This is what we get to be a part of. Like you guys, here's you guys. You guys are. This is my problem with the first gathering too. You guys are right at the precipice. You're in danger right now, right? It's sort of like you're like, it's really cold outside, and I just haven't had good sleep in so many days, and I am maybe thinking about trying to be a stowaway, not to actually give blood, but to eat some turkey on Wednesday night, right? Like, oh, what? Oh, Rob said something? Oh, right. Guys, seriously, like, I think this is unbelievably good right here. This is our work. It's what we get to be a part of. Here's the rub. Here's why that's hard for us, right? Because we think, well, yes, ultimately maybe, but this is hard, right? It's hard that, like, this idea that there's going to be unity, it seems like, you know, peace, love, kumbaya, whatever. Does that even work? It's hard, and it only seems to be getting harder, right? It's more and more difficult because everyone is so busy and nobody wants to listen. So, Rob, who really cares? I mean, come on. I've even invited and nobody ever even shows up. So what's the point anyway? The title I'm giving this talk today comes from a children's game. Have you ever played I Spy? Right? I spy with my little eye something that is pink. I always try to do that when I'm looking at a pink thing like way over there to like, because it's always like I can Jedi mind trick Liam. Pink. And he's like, the candle. I'm like, no. Right? It's kind of what I do. And sometimes playing I Spy can be easy, right? Like it can be really obvious. And other times, and again, you guys are like, how much do you play I Spy? Not very much. Sometimes it can be really challenging. Now, I want to say this, and saying this is sort of like saying, I'm really good at crumpling up paper towels and playing basketball, right? You're like, so? Like, what that is like the most useless skill in the history of the world, right? So me saying this is a little bit like that. I am really good at I Spy, right? My mind is wired in such a way where I just naturally notice things that most people don't notice, that it's hard for others to see. So when I'm playing, if someone sees something, usually it's relatively easy for me to see that. And it's also easy for me to see things that they can't typically see, and so it takes them a lot more time and guesses to find what I'm looking at. But there's one situation that my strong wiring just cannot overcome. And it's when I play I Spy with a young child, right? And there's two. Has anyone here ever played this game with a young child? Okay? A number of us have. And there's two problems here. Have you ever done this where you're playing it and everybody takes a turn and then the young kid gets his turn or her turn, and so they go and like, 10 minutes or like a long time in, after a million guesses, you finally like give up and you're like, I hate doing this, but like, what is it? And they tell you what it is, and like all their guesses and stuff like weren't even close. Like you're like, what you said, like there's no connection. Like, so nobody would have ever been able to ever guess that. And what I spied something that is like that, what you just said isn't that, right? And then here's the other thing. And because in our family, here's what usually happens. We end up playing I Spy when we're in a vehicle, going somewhere that takes a long time, and everybody's device batteries have died. And Bethany and I are like, if we don't do something right now, our kids are no longer going to exist, right? Like, we got to keep the natives at bay. Right? So that's usually what happens. And so, so I'll go and Bethany will go and Christopher will go. Then it's Liam's turn. And this is where we learned we have to be very specific with the rules. Like, everybody should just intuitively know the rules because it's a pretty simple game, right? But you got to say, no, here's the rules. Because have you ever had this happen where I spy something that is blue? And so you name a million things that are blue, and a half hour later, you're like, what is it? Well, it was that car that passed us 40 minutes ago that nobody can see anymore, and like we can't spy it. You got to keep being able to spy it until you guess it, right? Like, you can't just be something I saw using my binoculars 86 miles away, right? That doesn't work. And so in that same way, I love this. Our second verse is from 1 John 4, verse 12, and here's how it starts. The scripture says, no one has ever seen God. Kind of like playing that silly game with a young child, right? And trying to figure out their misleading and disconnected clues. So let me say it differently. Nobody can spy God. We can't do it. It's not possible. No one can. No one has. And even biblically, so much of the time, do you notice that God sort of speaks through and shows up through other things? Almost indirectly. So is it like God is there? No, there's a burning bush. Or he speaks through his prophet. Or there's a still small voice. Right? There's all these other things that God shows up in and through instead of showing up directly. It's kind of like if God were to show up directly with us face to face as fallen, sinful, frail human beings, we would just spontaneously combust. Right? Like, we cannot fathom or receive the full presence of God in these states. To me, that's kind of a powerful thought, right? And so he has to show up in and through other things. So if no one has or can see God, and seeing him may be only getting harder and harder, and again, I say that because that doesn't sit well with my theology, but for most people, they're like, oh, things are getting worse and worse, things are getting harder and harder, it's more and more difficult for people to see God, and so certainly that's a thought. Then how are we supposed to achieve unity under Jesus? If people can't see him, how are we all going to get together? I mean, they don't believe, and if they can't see him, they're going to think he's kind of like Santa Claus, right? So what do we do here? If they can't see him, they won't follow him. But they can see him. What? You just said, and we just read a part of a Bible verse that said no one has ever seen. So how can we see him? How is this even possible? Here is the why. This is the best why. Because here's how that verse ends, right? No one has ever seen God, but if we love one another, God lives in us, and his love is made complete in us. Where people may not be able to see God directly, if you and I love each other, and we love people outside of here that we don't even know and who say all kinds of horrible things about us, guess what? God lives in us. His love is in us, and people can see that. The idea here is that no one can or ever has seen God except through our love and our unity. Here's the thing. You and I, we can be a sexy, fun, adventurous pirate, right? And people may even take notice and pay attention to us. But nobody will ever see Jesus. And nobody will truly be changed. But as we choose oneness, as we choose unity and love one another, God's perfect love is made complete in us, and others can see that, and they can see him. They will see him if we choose this way. Last year at Christmas, and we kind of talked about it a lot and pushed it a lot, for our Christmas gatherings, we had 900 people here at New Hope hear the message of Jesus. It was awesome. Is it because we did the greatest series in the history of series? Nope. In fact, I think the series we did the year before, the Game of Thrones series, was better. Really, the best series was a number of years before we did the Star Wars series, and Darth Vader lit the Advent wreath every week. Come on, that was awesome, right? Was it because we did the best series? No. And here's the thing. People who are far from Jesus don't come to church at Christmas because they want to hear a great Christmas sermon. No one has ever done that. They go because a friend invited them or their mom or grandma guilted them. Right? Let's just be honest. Is it because we have the best band in the whole land? Do you see how I left out a couple words there just because it's church, right? No. Even though we do, right? We do. We have an incredible band. No, that's not why people came. Is it because we were strategic and just executed that perfectly? No. We were, and I think maybe it helped a little bit. Is it because we gave out tickets, free tickets? No. That maybe helped us have better coverage at all gatherings, creating more space for people comfortably. And all those things maybe helped a little bit, but that is not why we had a record attendance last Christmas. You want to know why? It's because there are people here who loved Jesus and each other enough, and I'm going to say it this way, and I know some of you won't like it, and you're going to do something different, and that's completely fine, right? Because we have passengers and stowaways and all kinds of different people. That's fine. But there were people who loved each other and Jesus enough to take the things in their life that are lesser priorities, right? But I always get together with these people, or we always do this then. Lesser priorities, and decided at one of the 2 times of the year where people are more open to the message of Jesus, that they would actually prioritize coming and inviting people to hear the life-changing message of God coming to earth for them. And so maybe for some of you, you're like, well, I like that we kind of do a Christmas message on Sunday. Back in the day, we used to do like 4 and then the late one on Christmas Eve, and that was it, right? We just did them all on that one day. And then a couple of years ago, because of how it fell, we're like, you know what? Let's add a Saturday night, and we'll do our Sundays, and then we'll do the late ones on Sunday too. And actually, we saw a huge jump in attendance. And so last year, we're like, you know what? Is it because we did it instead of all on one day with multiple opportunities? Is it because we did it on multiple days and we gave opportunities on different days? And we actually had weeks-long discussion and debate, because it's like, we're going to like put a huge stress, a weight on the crew, right? Because we're going to ask them to not just do this whole day, but now a huge chunk of multiple days. And it's hard, right? But here's what we decided. We were like, you know what? If it's not the best for us, if it kind of cramps what we would prefer, but it creates opportunity for people to hear the eternity-changing message of Jesus, and more of them will come, then we are willing to put ourselves sort of in harm's way, if you will, for the sake of others. We will do that as a church, right? So man, that's why so many people heard the message of Jesus, because you guys said, you know what? It's way more important. And so if I come on Sunday and that works best for me, but a friend of mine says, hey, I'll come, but I'll come on Tuesday. And you're like, oh my gosh, we do this family thing or that thing. But guess what? I'm actually going to put that off to the side so that I can take this person and come with them. I'll come on Sunday for me, but I'll come on Tuesday for them so that they can get to know Jesus too. And then when they got here, it wasn't just that there was a great performance, and there was a great performance, but they saw people who didn't just do a great performance, but they saw people who loved each other and who loved God and had unity. And that's a compelling reason to stick around and want to be a part of something greater than ourselves. So one last time, I want you to check out our graphic. And I just want to ask a couple quick questions. Is your life, or are your actions feeding the gap, making it a bigger chasm? Or is your life and are your actions building unity? Maybe better with today's language, and maybe a more compelling question maybe, are you a part of the crew, or are you a pirate? And what you've done in the past doesn't matter. I told you earlier, in some ways we've all been pirates at certain points, right? What you've done in the past, it's irrelevant. It doesn't matter. But what you are doing now and what you are becoming and will do in the future, that's what really counts. That's what matters. See, because when you and we choose love and oneness and unity, you help others see Jesus. You help them spy the unseeable God. And that literally changes things forever. That's what we get to be a part of. Now, some of you are here and you're like, I'm really unsure. This sounds like a whole lot of peace, love, kumbaya stuff, right? Like, I don't know if that'll even work, right? It's going to be hard and difficult, and I may have to forgive that person one row back and 2 seats over that I don't even really like, and I'm kind of perturbed they're sitting this close to me today, right? I don't know if this will work. And maybe that's how the prophet Isaiah felt when God told him hundreds of years before the birth of Jesus that a child would be born who would bring light to a dark world. Like, I know everybody likes babies and babies are cute, but is that even possible? And here's the thing. You and we can argue with God. I've done it a whole bunch of, God, are you serious? You really want me? We can argue with God. But when we argue with God, I know this from experience, because He's God, He's always right, and He always wins. Just how it works. And it's not because He's mean and He's bully, it's because He's God, right? And here's the good news. God winning is the absolute best thing for everyone.